Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I wanted to break down the exact steps that my client took to actually get an interview for a manager level role. So, if you are a manager, director, VP, or even a senior individual contributor with more than 15 years of experience, you might be passively looking, you might be thinking about better options, but what is always the biggest hurdle is actually getting an interview. So, let me walk you through step by step what my client did and how she got an interview. This is a recent win. This is a live win, it's fresh. And this is why I'm excited to walk you through how it happened. Because I know that the best way people learn is via example. Of course, I'm not going to reveal my client's identity because I never share any of my client's information or confidential information. And when people ask me if they could talk to, my clients, I don't like doing that because sometimes people just don't want to know. I don't want people to know that they're looking or it's confidential information, it's sensitive information. It's like going to a doctor and the doctor reveals their patient's information. So instead of doing that, I like to share some case studies for you all to learn while keeping the information confidential. So let's talk about how this happened because it is an incredible story. This client of mine went through layoffs earlier this year. And as you all know, layoffs can be a blessing in disguise, especially if you've been in the same organization for many years. Actually, let me just look up how long she was at that company. I'll tell you all now. So she was at the same company for more than 11 years. When you've been at that same company for so long, it actually makes it even more difficult to navigate your job search. You don't even know where to start. Now, what I love about this client is that she didn't want to just dive into building a resume, which is 100% what I discourage people to do, especially if you've been in the same organization for many years. But here's a story. When her organization decided to do the layoffs, they brought in an external career service company. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to deal with the defamation suit, but they're quite popular. And she felt like they were just treating her like a number. The first thing that they did with her is, of course, they tried to help her with her resume because when a company hires these external career services, they just want to give the impression that they're doing the right thing. But truly, what's going on is this company or this company that they're hiring is paid by them. So they're never going to work in your best interest. And I know for a fact their business model because one of my colleagues, who is also a career coach, used to work for them. And she would tell me that she would literally have to work with like 100 clients. Like when you're working with 100 clients, you don't know each person individually. You don't understand their history. You don't know their experience in depth. And it's really hard to help someone with their positioning when you don't know them. I call the exercise of you knowing your value, you knowing what you're the best at as a leader, a positioning exercise. And I want you to think of it this way. When we are building a brand, let's say this brand, there's a story behind it. And in order to position this brand properly, whatever marketing agency or whatever marketing professional, whether they're in-house or external, who's working with this, product, spends a lot of time with the organization, spends a lot of time with the founder, with the CEO, to learn more about their vision for the brand. Who is the ideal client? What are we solving for this client? What makes you different, right? How is G-Fit different than, let's say, a Monster drink? We're targeting people who are healthier, who don't want to be over caffeinated or, drink sugary drinks to get energy. We want to target people who are health conscious, or maybe we want to target, older people versus younger people, older people like me who don't want to pull an all-nighter, but actually want to hydrate and perform, in a meeting or during a live. So the point that I want to make is the way, products are positioned is no different than the way you as a professional gets positioned, right? So whoever is helping you with the positioning needs to learn more about you as a person at a very deep level. So anyway, when she came to me, she was frustrated. She could not finish writing her resume. She didn't even look for jobs. And it was like over a month that this was going on. She just didn't feel confident in the advice that she was being given. So the first thing her and I worked on was completing my career archetype assessment. I actually call this phase an identity excavation. So when I asked her, do you feel like you're clear in terms of what you want to do next after working for this organization for more than 11 years? She had a vague idea, but she wasn't sure how her experience would translate to another organization. Because let's face it, titles are a label. I can call this an energy drink, but not all energy drinks are equal. They have different flavors. Some of them are caffeinated, some of them are not caffeinated. So it's the same thing. If we take, for example, the role of a partnership director or the role of a product leader, a product leader at one company is not going to be performing the same type of work at another company. So people think that they can get away with positioning themselves via title. But when you do that, you're making yourself as a commodity, right? So the first thing we did is we figured out what her ideal role is. We were in between, multiple roles, and then she finally got the clarity in terms of which one would make sense. The other thing that we got clear on is what differentiates her as a professional. What is she great at? And one of the things that she's really great at is being able to put together sales trainings and really build teams that are very customer centric. Okay. So when she got that aha moment and clarity, that's what got her excited in terms of applying for jobs. Whereas before, when she didn't have that clarity, she dreaded actually, applying. Now, the second hurdle, which felt like a big hurdle for her, was actually building the resume. I always get people who come to me and tell me, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my resume, blah, blah, blah. Now, I feel like the way people perceive a resume is almost like a piece of paper, but it actually isn't. Look, the resume itself is not a magic bullet. But the thing is, the journey that you go through in order to create the resume is what makes you amazing at communicating your value. Okay? It's kind of like, what's an analogy that I can share with you all in order to understand this? I mean, if we go back to this bottle, right? It might look at the surface level that it's easy to come up with this logo and this messaging and even the name. But in order for Gatorade to actually come up with this idea, it probably took them months to come up with it. They got very clear in terms of, okay, who should we target? what would be the most profitable market segment and demographic that we should target in order to be profitable? So I want you to think of it the same way. What is the most profitable role for you? And profitable is not just about money. Profitable meaning because if you think about it, when you go to work, you're trading your time for money. And so you got to think about when you put in all this time that you take away from your family, it has to be worth it, right? So when we figure out what's worth it for you, part of it is the money, part of it might be the types of people you want to work with, that you enjoy working with, feeling challenged and growing. Because when you think about profitability, you can't just think about the short term, right? Like Gatorade is not going to make a decision and spend, thousands of dollars printing all this packaging, put in the effort, to sell all of these products if it's only going to make them money in like a month, right? You need to think about your career long term. Will getting into this role help you in the long term with your career growth? Could it open doors to an even higher level role? That's how you want to think about it. Okay. So when her and I talked about what the next role is, and we got clear on it, and she got very excited, then we built her story across her resume, across her LinkedIn profile, and all of that wonderful stuff. Because let us say, for example, a customer success leader, one customer success leader, how is that going to differentiate them from another customer success leader? What is it that they bring to the table that another customer success leader wouldn't bring to the table? Maybe some customer success leaders are amazing at sales. Some of them are great at onboarding. Some of them have a knack for building teams and coaching and training, right? So you got to figure out within that space that you're in, what are you the best at? So, long story short, after she gave me all this information, the second thing we did is I interviewed her when it came to all of the roles that she's held in the past 15 years. And then we focused on the best initiatives that she enjoyed. And we went very deep in terms of what was the business objective that she aligned to? Who did she actually coach? What teams was she overseeing? How did she mentor those teams? That's actually one of the things that I find leaders make a mistake of. Sometimes you make yourself sound like an individual contributor versus a people leader because you talk about what you've executed individually and you don't talk about how you collaborated and empowered and coached and trained and mentored the teams around you and how big they were in order to make your initiative successful. And what is the unique approach that you brought to the table? Let's say a CEO said to you, you know what, the problem that we're solving is this product that we currently offer at this organization is underperforming. So if a CEO says that to you, what is the first thing that you do in order to figure this out? You want to tell a story that is going to make a hiring manager and recruiter almost visualize you in the room, almost imagine you. And you do want to share your approach because what it does is that it creates that initial alignment. It's like how I, share my approach openly because I don't want to have clients who sign up with me and they become blindsided and they feel like, well, I didn't know that this was your approach and they hate it and then friction happens. So it's the same thing. And I find that when I look at resumes, the information is very shallow, it's not specific. It doesn't tell me why you're different in terms of impact. I mean, some of my clients have led teams that have 50 people, right? So that's a specific metric that you can bring in to help the recruiter and the hiring manager understand the magnitude of what you've done. So anyway, my client was very excited about this opportunity. But before that, she was not getting traction with interviews. She was spinning and spinning. Even though we built an amazing resume for her, she was not getting interviews. So her and I sat down and I asked her how she's actually generating these interviews. And I noticed a pattern where she was obsessing over rewriting the entire resume over and over and over and over again whenever she was applying. That's pattern number one. There was a little bit of that obsession. And I see that too in some professionals where they just get really obsessed and they keep rebuilding their resume every time they're applying for a job. And that comes from unclear positioning. Because when you're unclear about your positioning, when you're unclear about the general target of a role that you want to basically land, then what happens is you get into this headspace where you feel like you're constantly trying to prove yourself and constantly rewriting your resume over and over and over again. Okay? That's what generally happens. And so we fixed that with her. And when we did, she got super laser focused on the opportunity that would get her excited. And then I helped her align her narrative to that opportunity. And lo and behold, we fixed it. She got an interview. So she went from, not getting interviews, rewriting her resume multiple times to literally within a week of us fixing this, she got an interview. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say is something that I teach my clients. I don't tell my clients to apply to job postings cold alone. That doesn't work as effectively as it used to work before. Why? Because of AI, unfortunately, and I'm not saying AI as in there are bots screening your resume. There are humans who read your resume. But the thing that's going on is that AI has made it very easy for people to generate documents very fast. And it made it easy for people to apply to a lot of jobs at a large scale. And there are also all of these apps that automate applying on your behalf. And so what that has caused is a flooded market. Let me just say it like it is. What that has created is spam. I mean, we all are getting more spam via email. We're getting more spammy phone calls. Oh, it's insane. I mean, I also get the weirdest messages in my LinkedIn DMs these days. So can you imagine a recruiter's inbox? It's full of these watered down generic resumes and a ton of spam. People who are not even fit for the role applying. And so you think that the issue is that there are bots, but the actual issue is there's way too much spam. So, in order for us to overcome this flooded channel, which is applying via job board, we have to exercise our relationship building muscle. I am not even going to say networking because, friends, people's idea of networking is you cold DMing someone on LinkedIn and asking them if they know anyone or if they would refer you into a role. That is not really networking. And so, in order to make this very simple for everyone to understand, I'm going to call it relationship building. Do you think that sending someone you don't know a message the first time you meet them, and asking them for a favor, do you think that is relationship building? I mean, it's like, imagine you're on the street and someone comes to you and says, do you know anyone who's hiring? That's literally what you're doing when you are sending people that you don't know cold DMs and asking them for a favor to refer you into a role. Okay? I mean, at least say hi to the person, right? So I have a technique that I give my clients in order to build relationships. First of all, part of relationship building is you want to start with your warmer connections. You don't want to make an ask. You don't want to start with the stranger, because the likelihood of of someone actually, referring you into a role is going to be stronger if they at a minimum know you. Okay? So I give my clients a very structured approach. And listen, a lot of you know this, okay? A lot of you, guaranteed, you know this. It's all logical. But the reason you're not doing it, because landing a job is a full system. It's not one thing or the other. It's like if I had a goal to lose weight, okay? I know that I have to go to bed early. I know that I have to eat well. I know that I have to exercise, but it feels overwhelming because there are a lot of things that I have to do in order to achieve the goal, right? Hi, Robert. And hi, Jay. And hi, Phil. So, anyway, because it's overwhelming, you need someone to break it down for you into steps. You also need accountability, and you need some type of community where you don't feel alone. And this is what my clients have. So a couple of things that went on. When my client, was going through this obsession of, rewriting her resume over and over again, there's actually one thing there are a couple of things that motivated her to stop doing that. Yes, one of them was getting clear on the role that would get her excited, but she saw another person within my community. I gave him a challenge, okay? And I said to him, we both know that you should be at the VP level. He had an interview, and I said, from now on, I want you to own it. I want you to own that you are the VP level. Within 24 hours, he posted a message in the community and said, I owned it. And he took it further. He had an interview that was at the director level, and he ended up positioning himself as a VP. And the recruiter actually responded to that, agreed to that, and connected him with someone where he would actually articulate his desire to land a VP role within that organization. Isn't it crazy what happens when you own something? Now, when that client of mine who wasn't getting interviews saw that, it gave her the confidence to also own that she is amazing. She doesn't need to overthink rewriting her resume, and she should tap into her network. So her and I came up with a strategy. We wrote down all of the people that she knew. We ranked them from the people that she had the closest relationship to the people that she barely knew. And we also scored it by most influential person to least influential person. So there are two things actually that you need to score. You need to score how well the person knows you and is willing to vouch for you, and how influential they are. And when you combine those two things, those are the people that you need to prioritize talking to in order to build those relationships, which eventually manifest to someone referring you into the role. Now, there's also the way that you ask the person for the favor. The way you ask it matters, and that is something that I teach in my program. So when I gave her that strategy, armed with a very well-written resume, that is when she ended up getting her interview. So to summarize, how did this happen? One, she got very clear on what differentiates her beyond the title, we built a very strong narrative across her resume, her LinkedIn profile, that are very specific and tell stories of initiatives that she led, not watered down, generic, chat GPT stuff, not what Uncle Claude, tells you, because Uncle Claude, is not going to interview you and ask you deeper level questions. Okay. You also need someone who has context in terms of what is the right structure that's going to get recruiters to actually bother and read your material. And unfortunately, because Claude gets the information from what's out there in the market, most of what's being taught in the market is incorrect. And it's just going to regurgitate it to you. And it's going to mislead you. And your resume is going to look like everyone else too. Okay. The third thing is not relying solely on the job board. It's relying on relationship techniques. These are proven and tested techniques. Why am I actually an authority on this? Because I literally built my business on these techniques. It is the 6th year that I am in business, all in. My business would not exist if I didn't know how to build relationships. My customers never knew who I was before they met me. All they saw was my LinkedIn profile, and we had a phone call. Okay. No one referred them to me. I mean, most of my clients, I do get a lot of referrals, but I also have a lot of clients too who come to me and have never heard from me for the first time. Right. So it was necessary for me to build that relationship building muscle. And what I teach my clients is to really take on an entrepreneurial approach to landing a role. Because it's not like it was, it's not like what it used to be. Before, there wasn't a lot of competition. There weren't as many people applying for jobs. Now you have to take on a completely different approach. And especially if you are a manager, director, VP, you cannot implement strategies that are created for entry-level professionals. Okay, you cannot do that. That's not going to work. Okay, so my client has her interview next week. Wish her luck. Post a, comment in the DM and say good luck. We're not going to say her name, but just say good luck. I hope that she sees it. And if you got a takeaway from this, if there's one thing that you learned from hearing this live, I would love it if you put it in the comments. And do you know what doesn't cost anything? If you give this video a like, because it's going to give me the momentum and the satisfaction to do more of this. I mean, who doesn't like someone clapping for them, right? So just clap for me. The equivalent of clapping for me when you watch my show is to actually give me a like. Okay. All right. I hope that you enjoyed this. Look, if you are a senior professional who's either thinking about your next move, or if you've been searching and you haven't been getting luck, then I'm offering space in my calendar for a 15-minute career diagnosis. And I am going to show you how to book this call with me. It's actually very simple. So if you go into my LinkedIn profile, under the heading, there is a button. Okay. So let's just see here. Okay. By the way, the reason I'm wearing black today is because I went to the gym and I had a bet. I had a bet with my friends, and I told them that I would go to the gym and they need to hold me accountable. So see, like even coaches need accountability. But anyway, if you would like to chat with me in order to understand what's blocking you from getting traction, then you can click on the book an appointment button. It is under my LinkedIn profile. This is for people who want to land roles between 150,000 to 300 to blah. I can't talk today. It's because of the gym. I'm going to blame it on the gym. Okay, let me try again. If you are someone who is targeting $150,000 role and above, then it makes sense for us to chat. And how you can do this is you can click on the book an appointment button. What that's going to do is it's going to take you to my booking page. I encourage you to watch this video because it's going to give you context on my story, the types of clients that I've worked with, even some client stories towards the end. It's only 10 minutes and it's going to help you get that context. And then you can click on the book your career diagnosis button. So when you do that, there is a very short intake for me to understand your goals and what you're trying to solve. Because we only have 15 minutes, I'd like to see the information beforehand so that I can understand your situation and we can create a plan on the call to help you become successful. Yeah, it is almost 9 o'clock, close to my bedtime. No, I'm actually not an early bird, just so that you all know. Okay, so anyway, this is how you can book the call with me. All right, and then we can chat. Okay, friends, thank you so much for listening. I did it. This is the first day that I go to the gym and I managed to do a live. I stumbled a little bit on my words, but we got through this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Ernest. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, OJ. Thank you, friends. You're awesome. All right. Love you all. Have a good night.